Hey, welcome everyone to the White House. My name is Macon Phillips. I'm the Director of Digital Strategy here, and I am incredibly excited for today's Hangout. I'm joined by Wendy Spencer, the CEO of the Corporation for National Community Service, who's here for a very exciting day of activities here. Wendy, do you want to tell everyone a little bit what's going on?
Hello, everyone. We're so happy to be here. But what Macon didn't say is he's an AmeriCorps alum. AmeriCorps Vista, can you see his patch? I hope so. I'm so excited about it. But today we have 150 AmeriCorps alums in the White House for a full day of dialogue and discussion about AmeriCorps experiences, what they're doing in their life now, how AmeriCorps affected their lives and their decisions and their futures. It's really a pretty powerful day, and we've already had the opportunity to have Jack Lew, the Chief of Staff to the President, John Carson here as well, and Jonathan Greenblatt, and so many other great White House senior officials. So we're just super stoked about what we're doing at the White House today, and happy to be talking to you online on my first Google Hangout. It's great fun.
That's right. So as many of you have probably picked up on, we're also joined by 4 other folks from around the country. I'm going to go around the horn and give everybody just a second to introduce themselves, and then we'll dive right into it. So let's start with Rafael. Rafael, why don't you tell us a little about yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Rafael Gonzalez, and I'm the Chief Service Officer for Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa in the city of Los Angeles. I have the privilege of basically overseeing the mayor's portfolio on service and volunteerism, and really proud of the work that we've been able to do over the last 7 years, but really more proud, of our service community. And so for me, it's been a blessing, it's been a privilege, and it all started with me with Public Allies. I was actually the founder and executive director of Public Allies LA, and that sort of started my journey through national service, and now we're taking it to this next level in the city of Los Angeles, where we're seeing service really be a strategy for us to help us reduce the high school dropout rate, make our city greener, and also alleviate the levels of poverty that we have in our city. So it's great to be here this morning. Thank you.
Great. Welcome, Rafael. And before I go to the next person, let me just remind everyone watching online, you can add a comment or a question. Just jump on Twitter and use the hashtag WHHangout. We've got someone here with her eye on the screen is going to be asking me questions and comments as it happens. So if you hear something that you're interested in, just go ahead and use WHHangout to shout out. So let's go to Quinn. Quinn, why don't you tell us a little about yourself?
Sure. Good afternoon. Thanks for having me. My name is Quinn Gardner. I'm the Field and Operations Coordinator for the AmeriCorps St. Louis Emergency Response Team. Before I took on that role, I spent 2 years kind of as a traditional member. Our program focuses on conservation, wildland firefighting, and then disaster response and preparedness with an emphasis in volunteer management. So I've been able to travel to Texas and Arkansas and Mississippi, all to help with disasters, and then all over across the state of Missouri. Within the last year and a half, we were heavily involved in the Joplin tornado, have coordinated over 56,000 volunteers, over 500,000 volunteer hours, which has helped save the city over $17 million in the FEMA cost share program. So it's been an amazing opportunity, and really, really amazing 4 years with AmeriCorps.
All right, great. Our next person is Robert Fogarty. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Robert?
Yeah, that's right. Hey guys, Robert Fogarty here. I did Vista in New Orleans for 2 years, from 2007 to 2009. Was able to work in the mayor's office, so worked with the evacuation planning after the storm, and we used a plan to evacuate people without cars in 2008. At the end of my Vista term, moved about 20,000 people, and then I created with a few friends an organization called evacuteer.org, and now we train citizens each year on behalf of the city if we ever have to use the plan again.
Great. All right, and finally we have Melissa. Melissa?
Hi everyone, my name is Melissa Simmermaker, and I'm also an AmeriCorps alumni. I served 2 years as an AmeriCorps Vista member with the Iowa Commission on Volunteer Service based in Des Moines, Iowa. So I got to spend quite a bit of time building capacity, resources, doing some public outreach for our youth mentoring and engagement programs in Iowa, and had an opportunity to also work on some of our youth service initiatives. And I'm now working as a full-time program officer with the Commission on Volunteer Service, so still heavily involved in national service. engaging more disadvantaged youth in service opportunities. And I also serve as the president of the Des Moines AmeriCorps Alumni chapter. So I've been able to stay connected and engaged as an alumni through service and social networking events as well.
All right. So I think we've covered that. We've got people around the country on this transatlantic Google or transcontinental Google Hangout. So we have a couple questions coming in, and just as a reminder, if you're watching online, use WH Hangout to put up a comment or a question on Twitter. But I'll hand it back over to Wendy to get the conversation going. Maybe you have something you put forward to all of our participants here.
I do. Thanks, Macon. This is a lot of fun, and we're looking forward to your questions as well. And as you mentioned, I'm this new CEO of the Corporation for National Community Service, and I got my start in national service at the Florida Governor's Commission on Volunteerism in Florida when managing the AmeriCorps grants. So I got to see firsthand the impact that AmeriCorps grants had in Florida, and I'm so glad to be serving on a national basis. So I want to start with a question that we've been having here at the White House today, asking the AmeriCorps alums about their proudest moment when serving as an AmeriCorps member. I'm going to start with you, Quinn. I know that you have a lot of proud moments because I got to visit you in Joplin, Missouri to see the amazing impact that you and your Corps members were doing to recover. And I met family members who you touched directly through recovery of the disaster from those horrible tornadoes over a year ago in Joplin. So tell me, during your service, either then or some other time, what has been your most proud moment?
Sure. Thanks, Wendy. I appreciate that. And honestly, even the few minutes of cheat you gave me on that question to think about it, I can't say I've come up with, a proudest moment. I think back to Holmes County, Mississippi, and helping a woman who had lost her father in the storm find his dogs, and they had puppies, and being able to reunite her with these puppies that were this life continuing. And that was a really great moment. I think about obviously everything in Joplin. There's been so many moments. I think personally about the Governor Nixon in our state being so impressed with the work we were able to do in Joplin, and me personally that he offered. But I think honestly the proudest, I guess, moment I think of is just recognize AmeriCorps out of nowhere. We travel all over the country, and we'll be traveling in the gas station, and someone sees the A, and the way that they react and the thanks that we get, even building trails in the middle of nowhere. And so I think all the disaster services are really obvious answers that are really proud and obviously genuine moments. But I think the proudest I've ever felt is being part of the family that is AmeriCorps and AmeriCorps St. Louis, and that's definitely, I think, where my pride lies in the community I'm a part of.
Oh, right. And, another, if we have time, follow-up question about a pathway to economic opportunities and careers, which is such a priority here at the White House. And you just mentioned it, and you just flew right past it, Quinn, but because of your experience as an AmeriCorps member with the St. Louis Safety Corps, you were exposed to government officials, including the governor of Missouri, and you were starting your job in a couple of days working for the governor. Wow, it doesn't get any bigger than that. That's what I call an economic opportunity, girlfriend. Isn't that great? So Raphael, tell me, what about your proudest moment is helping start Public Allies? What a great opportunity you had.
It was, and it was, it was an experience that I'll never forget, and I think about some of the accomplishments that we've had. One of the accomplishments, and there's been so many, is the fact that the organization is still going strong here in Los Angeles. And so, I just think about all the young people that have been given an opportunity to serve their neighborhoods, to build alliances, to have an impact on the issues that we care about the most, is something that is that we continue to see. But I can tell you, that during our first, one of the pieces that we did was our members were actually going door to door in the MacArthur Park community. We were very entrenched in one of our neighborhoods in Los Angeles, which happens to be one of the poorest, most dense, most violent neighborhoods. And our members were going door to door, talking to people, asking people, what were issues of their concern, talking about leadership. And over the years, it was really interesting because a lot of the information that came from these visits became assessments that was shared with other nonprofit organizations. And many of these folks that we actually met in these apartment are still continuing their leadership. They're still very active, active in addressing the issue of substandard housing, active in other areas. The important thing here is that we were able to intersect the different issues that affect that community. And so for me, to have these members come together with the residents of this community that we were so committed to me, made me very proud. And for me, it was sort of an awakening to the power of AmeriCorps and the power of national service, you know, the impact that these young people are able to make, you know, by bringing them together with residents is just so tremendous. And, you know, so for me, that would be one of my proudest moments with Public Allies.
Oh, that's great. Robert, how about you? Share with us about what your experience.
Oh, you're on mute. He muted his phone. There we go.
Sorry, didn't want to mute or be talking over people. My proudest moments during AmeriCorps, I guess, is you know, so we moved about 20,000 people in advance off in 2008 who didn't have cars from the city of New Orleans, and I had an air mattress and bunked up in City Hall for the hurricane. So had this moment of solitude, I guess, waking up in my office at City Hall on an air mattress, and knowing that we were very lucky to have moved pretty much everyone out of the city, and had a safe evacuation. So it was kind of a good moment of reflection that I think of often.
Wow, that's pretty great. I mean, you think about that in times of greatest need is during disasters, and to have AmeriCorps and AmeriCorps Vistas there to help people get through the toughest time they could ever get through is you know what AmeriCorps is about, right? Is a creative. How about Melissa? Tell us about your experience and something proud for you as a Vista member.
Well, that was a great segue for me, Wendy, because my proudest moment is also disaster related. I came in thinking I was going to be working with mentoring and youth serving organizations, and in my first week I was actually sent to relieve some FEMA workers in Parkersburg, which is a very small town in Iowa that was hit by a really devastating tornado in 2008. So it was definitely trial by fire for me. I was told by my executive director just to, you know, pack a bag for about 4 weeks, and was sent off to a little town I had never been to before, and we were operating in a little kind of just van on the side of a dirt road. So every day I got to go out and scout work sites. I was riding around on a Kubota. I was managing anywhere from 25 to about 200 volunteers, spontaneous and affiliated volunteers every day. So it was something I never saw myself doing. It was something I didn't know if I could do when I started, but it definitely set the tone for me and for what national service means, and getting to leave Parkersburg with just, you know, a few kind of projects to tie up at the very end, and to see the houses being rebuilt, to see people being able to move back into their community. It was something I never ever expected I would get to experience. So I think it shows not only the flexibility of national service, but the way it can open your eyes to different experiences. And I saw, but it did. It changed me as a person, and it's helped me become a better leader, a better advocate for national service, and a better professional as well.
And now you're at the Iowa State Commission,
Yes.
working with my dear friend Adam Lounsbury,
Yes.
doing a great job.
He was the one who was there with one bag and told me to pack for anywhere from 1 to 4 weeks. So.
That's great. And Iowa, the new home to a fabulous new partnership we have with FEMA called the NCCC FEMA Corps, which will be kicking off in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to be for that great kickoff. So we've got some questions. Is now a good time, Macon? I can ask. I've got one here from questions from America out there. One is from Gary Jess from Pennsville, New Jersey. And Gary asked about how can we sustain the AmeriCorps program and members. And he has a concern that, you know, you have AmeriCorps members who serve for a year, but then they leave. And how can we make sure that we have a sustainable program? So I'm going to answer that in sort of two ways. And love to have a reflection from any of you, my fellow folks on the screens here with me. But one way is, and we're talking about this today, is to tell our stories about the impact that AmeriCorps had, not just in your lives, but that you had on other people's lives, that you had in communities. Tell that story to your mayors, your local leaders, your state and leaders. Let them know why AmeriCorps is important and the impact in your service. whether you changed a life. This morning, one of the AmeriCorps alums was working with a student in the 8th grade. She was tutoring and mentoring her. Student decided to drop out of the 8th grade. And she was able to convince that student to go back to school through some communications and relationship they had built as her being an AmeriCorps member, and convince the student to go back to school. And now, several years later, they've graduated and they're Facebook friends. So, I mean, that's just such a compelling story for me to hear. We heard, gosh, probably about 25 stories like that this morning. So I think we've got to get the word out about AmeriCorps country, national leaders and state leaders, and let them know why it's important to support AmeriCorps and national service. So we'd love as a springboard for any of you to comment off of that. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Sure, Wendy, I would totally agree with what you said, and I think sharing our story is one of the most, powerful things. I'd also look at just the sustainability. When I look at the way our program operates, not only do we rely partially on the federal support and the governmental support, but we also are able to produce our own income through earned income projects and through our conservation, which also asks for training opportunities for the program and for its members. And so through that, we're really able to kind of develop a way where we can self-sustain and flip earned income into disaster services and no-charge services, so that we're not just financially pulling from the federal pool, but from all these other partners that, for the work that we do in their communities and in their various fields of interest.
You know what? Great fact. We have for national service from non-CNCS funding, so not agency, the Corporation for National Community Service. Listen to this number: $800 million in in-kind and financial support that comes from the private sector, from corporations, from foundations, from personal giving that are supporting the federal. So I love that about this program, is that it's from the local level that is both federal, state, local, private sector foundations. It's a perfect combination. And then human capital support that we have, putting those that talent and time into our nonprofits and organizations. What else? Robert, any of you, Raphael, reactions to that?
I mean, for us here in Los Angeles, I just remember, I mean, in terms of sustaining, the relationships and the connections that the members, had upon the organizations, so, I mean, I can tell you, that a lot of issues around housing, were able to connect via the members and the organizations that they were serving at, so part of the issues being sustained, and part of the work, to the community that was being able to sustain, was because of these partnerships that were created by members. I mean, that is big here in Los Angeles. We're a big city. We have lots of nonprofits, and the fact that you had this glue, this intersection, that was the members, the Public Allies members, made our work so much easier, helped us build the coalition and create a coalition that was much stronger. That was a way of sustaining a lot of the work, that on a year-on-year basis.
Sure. I mean, I'll jump in, more in a very quite technical sense that, this is, AmeriCorps funding is a no-brainer for me. You get, young, talented people in many ways, or people a little more experienced in their lives to work for pennies on the dollar. And, it's really an amazing return on investment of money. So from a sustainability standpoint, I mean, we use a Vista now with a vacuum, and we have a full-time staffer who's exceptional, and we couldn't afford to pay someone a market. And there's a lot of organizations, frankly, there's a lot of public agencies that can't pay market rate for the talent that they can get with AmeriCorps.
So let me jump in with a follow-up there. Earlier today, I got a question from some of the folks that are here about recruitment and about the value we can put forward to people that are interested in joining AmeriCorps. And it was put to me in kind of an interesting way about parents who are concerned about their kids that are taking a year and not making much money, or kind of going all around the country and not quite sure what they're going to be doing. And I had my answer to them, but I'd love to hear you guys talk about that from the standpoint of professional development. What's for an individual, what they walk away with having served for a year, what what those sort of intangible assets, what that experience is valuable.
I'll start. You know, I'm a big Puff Daddy fan, and he started as a volunteer at his first record label. So I mean, if you're in a good situation, there's something that you can't put a number on, and that's access to opportunity. And oftentimes, if you're in AmeriCorps, you're being put in situations that people, you know, would really dream to be in. So yes, I mean, there's certainly this idea that, yeah, you're not making a lot of money, but if you're in a position to kind of hustle and work hard, something that is really an important value proposition is you're just given opportunities that other people don't have.
Right. Anybody else?
To me, it's as simple as I don't have many regrets in life at all, and I think my one regret straight from high school to college. I mean, what 17 or 18 forward 50 years in their lives want to be, and it was through the experiences with AmeriCorps and getting to travel and getting to network and getting to have such a variety of experiences that I was able to really find my niche and find a passion. And I had ideas, and I didn't know how to really make those something solid. And through AmeriCorps, not only was I able to find my passion, but then able to network and form relationships that, you know, like Wendy mentioned with Governor Nixon and the state of Missouri, that are really going to carry me forward from a professional standpoint. And I mean, having a degree and going to college definitely, I think, for AmeriCorps, but AmeriCorps on the flip side absolutely better prepares an individual for college and real world experiences.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was so important to not just look at the college students, but to also look at people that were in continuation schools, that were at the community-based organizations with their youth organizations doing community organizing, looking at the different areas, the different sectors here in Los Angeles. I mean, to me, it's formative to bring all these people from different backgrounds, a diverse community that Los Angeles is so critical here, because at the end of the day, I mean, the transformation that a lot of these young people went through, the relationships that they were able to build, the different lenses and experiences that they were able to see, you know, was priceless.
Yeah, and I think to piggyback off of what Quinn was saying, it really is those opportunities to network and to get to know people in the field in which you think you might want to work, or you learn you might want to continue down that path and that road. But then as an AmeriCorps alum, you're opened your eyes to an entire new network of people who have served, who are passionate about the same things as you, but again, opening up more and more networking opportunities. So while I might not have served with some of these people who are now alumni, I get to network with them outside of the office, and I get even more opportunities to expand and to learn and to grow. And I think that's just as invaluable as my service, is this opportunity to stay connected as an alumni as well.
Yeah, I think it's good. Making one thing that another statistic, I'm filled with statistics today, but I think this is a powerful one, is today with AmeriCorps and Senior Corps programs across America, we have people serving in 70,000 locations. That's huge. I joke and I say I could probably stand outside about any door in America and yell, "Hey, AmeriCorps," or "Hey, Senior Corps," and someone would yell back. But that really tells you how deep the breadth of service is through the Corporation for National Community Service and all these organizations that are being lifted up from national members and AmeriCorps members. So I think it really is. I tell people, I said, serve by day, write your resume by night. You know, really, because if you're unemployed, if you can volunteer, if there's an AmeriCorps position, unfortunately, we didn't have positions to fill. Everybody wanted to last year. We had over 600,000 applications for only 82 positions in just 82,000 positions in AmeriCorps. But if you can't serve at AmeriCorps, you can volunteer, and it's a great way to help your community look for a job, gain some skills, network. So it really is a pathway to economic opportunity.
So let's, I think that's a good point to sort of step back and take a sort of a larger view of AmeriCorps. But first, just to remind everyone who may have just tuned in, we are here talking about AmeriCorps. We've got probably 15, 20 minutes left in this conversation. We'd love to hear from you with your questions or comments. So make sure you use the hashtag WHHangout if you're watching, and we've got someone here keeping her eye on that hashtag. And we actually got one in from Mark Shriver. who I think all of you probably know. He's with Save the Children, but comes from a family that has a long-standing commitment to public service. Of the Corporation of National Community Service and AmeriCorps. And of course, Mr. Shriver's father, Sergeant Shriver, has a unique place in the history of AmeriCorps. He asked a question. He said, during the 35th anniversary of Vista, my dad called for doubling and tripling the number of volunteers. What is President Obama's vision?
Wow. Well, you know, I can certainly respond to that. And thank you, Mark. Love hearing the shout out from you. Wow. That's really special that you're on today. You know, the vision from the president is, you know, just so supportive of national service, and we're very, very grateful for that. But Mark, you mentioned Senator Kennedy. What's exciting about AmeriCorps and national services, in 2009, President Obama signed the Serve America Act, which was put forth through Congress in a very bipartisan way. We said Senator Hatch and Senator Kennedy co-sponsoring that legislation to grow AmeriCorps, to grow national service, to give opportunities to more Americans and more local nonprofits, schools, libraries, local parks and government entities, but mainly these nonprofits and faith-based organizations who could use the support. So we, while funding isn't as large as we'd like to see, we're working very hard to make sure that the funding we have is well spent, well invested, the impact is high, and that's important, that we are very good stewards of the federal money and, as I mentioned, the $800 million in non-federal money. So I think the important point question is that as we let our leaders, our state, local, our national leaders know about the impacts of AmeriCorps and Senior Corps and all the wonderful programs, that they will become even larger supporters, because it is bipartisan in everything we do about AmeriCorps, and I think we'll see it grow. I know we will as we move forward, as they hear your stories about AmeriCorps and you as AmeriCorps alums and working through programs. Okay.
So we have another question that's definitely something that's, I think, on everyone's mind right now. And Melissa, this may start with you, because it's actually two questions. The first comes from Iowa, and it's from Jamie, who asks, I grew up in a rural community, and I still live in Iowa, a rural state. What is being done to ensure that AmeriCorps programming is accessible to small agencies, that AmeriCorps positions are available to residents of rural communities? And before you answer that, there's a second part that came from Robert in Massachusetts, who said, the summer of 2012 has been really difficult. How can volunteers best respond to heat waves, droughts, power failures, and related problems? And I know as we're keeping our eye towards some of these horrible fires that are happening out west, obviously the drought that's affecting so many people, I'm sure it's something you guys have been dealing with firsthand. Can you talk a little bit about how AmeriCorps isn't just the service that's in sort of the larger cities, but is also out in the country, and what that experience has been like, and maybe what people who are in AmeriCorps or outside of AmeriCorps can do to help with the problems facing rural America right now?
Sure. Well, I think I know who that Jamie might be who submitted that question. I think she's one of my coworkers. But one thing I know that we're doing at the state committee in Iowa, and as a very rural state, it's something that's always on our mind, is making sure that we're putting AmeriCorps members in those small rural communities, because I think especially in those rural areas, the impact can be doubled and even tripled beyond what we can see in some of our more well, what in Des Moines we call our urban cities. But one thing we've really been working on is trying to establish more AmeriCorps intermediary agencies in Iowa. So, for example, the Commission on Volunteer Service serves as one of our intermediaries. So we have a VISTA kind of cadre of anywhere from 10 to 15 members that we are then able to kind of parcel out to different organizations and nonprofits throughout the state. So we can target some of those rural areas that are very high need areas, or that just have a great idea for a VISTA program. And we also have some state programs that operate in a similar way. So the program might be based in Des Moines, Iowa, but the program parcels out members all across the state of Iowa and really targets some of our more rural areas that wouldn't be able to support a full AmeriCorps program, or that might not be able to support one VISTA on their own, but then the intermediary agency provide additional support, guidance, backup, training resources. So that's one way that we're really trying to target some of our rural communities here in Iowa.
Great.
That's great.
Anybody else have thoughts on that?
I think the Missouri Commission, I mean, St. Louis ERT is one program out of over 20 in Missouri that really do. There's a lot that have rural area focuses and smaller community focuses, particularly in literacy and tutoring and mentoring, and it's had a huge impact. And then events like Joplin allow us to kind of bring all of those programs across the state together and help people reach outside their specialty areas within their programs, but really come together as a united AmeriCorps family, really serving the country.
Okay. Okay, so we have another question from Twitter. Wendy, this may actually be something more in your wheelhouse. With so many people, so this is Darren who asked, with so many people benefiting from service, why is funding an issue?
Well, that's good. Thanks, Darren, for joining us on us today with the Hangout. You know, right now it's tough times in America. Make tough choices, but we believe that AmeriCorps and National Service is a great investment because of the return. You know, not just the fact that we have $800 million in match that's leveraged from a local community, but engaging citizens in service, formally and informally. So while you have 82 AmeriCorps members, 337,000 Senior Corps members, we serving currently the AmeriCorps and the Senior Corps members, we have 3.6 million volunteers. So if that isn't a great investment, I don't know what is. I mean, that is huge. But they're supporting thousands of organizations, as I mentioned, in all 70,000 sites, schools and locations that really need our help right now. So it's tough time. Funding at the federal level is difficult for every entity, and everyone has a justification. We just believe that we stand out because we're engaging citizens who are working on local problems, helping people through this economy who need it best, and we're trying to provide those economic opportunities to people right now.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else out there have comments they want to talk about, just sort of the funding environment that's out there and some of the resources or lack thereof? Popular topic, I know. Well, I mean, I'll just make one point from my personal experiences as a Vista. I was actually surprised. I didn't realize that things like AmeriCorps were about indirect service, not just direct service. So rather than just fund the tutors in the classroom or fund the people on the front lines of disaster response, AmeriCorps is actually funding people to help organizations on the ground build the capacity to become sustainable themselves. So some of the things that I did as a Vista was actually writing grant proposals. I was actually working with organizations to reach out in their local communities to develop new funding streams, because I think the first rule of any of these efforts, and I'm sure all of you would agree, is if all of your money comes from one source, you are not in a good position. Yeah. You have to be able to diversify your funding, and that's one area where at least the VISTA program really jumps in and helps.
For those of you who might be at the Hangout with us who are interested in serving in AmeriCorps, think about the difference between AmeriCorps and AmeriCorps VISTA. AmeriCorps, direct service. Those are the tutors, the mentors, people working in the parks, helping respond to fires and disasters. AmeriCorps VISTA, which Macon was referring to, which he was, are the capacity builders. So their responsibility is to help organizations grow, raise funds, write grants, coordinate volunteers, recruit tutors from the community, the actual tutors, but they are capacity builders. Two wonderful benefits to AmeriCorps and AmeriCorps VISTA.
Well, so here's another one about that. The question, it just came from Twitter. I'm not sure who, but it just did. To raise the profile of AmeriCorps so that those without degrees are looked at as viable candidates for future jobs. So when we talk about this as a pathway to new work, maybe talk a little bit about how we can elevate that, but also maybe what some of the common sort of pathways, what have you AmeriCorps alumni to go into? What are the most popular fields for them?
Great statistic that done from a survey we have that 60% of AmeriCorps alums entered public service, teachers, emergency management, even followed by military service. So that is one area that's a great attraction for those who are in public service field who want to recruit great talent. Go after an AmeriCorps alum. So I'm encouraging employers to give special treatment, if you will, to those who have served our country, either in the military or through national service. Wouldn't it be great if employers, if you saw on an application, you said, oh, there's an AmeriCorps alum. I see in your resume that you were an AmeriCorps member, service member, or someone from the military, that you gave them just an interview. What that would be, what a lift that would be. So what am I doing, Macon, is
Right.
I'm talking to national employers, foundations, government leaders, and the benefits that come from being an AmeriCorps member. You learn leadership. You learn how to tough times with very tight budgets, coordinate activities. There's so many skills in that year that you learn that become transferable into a successful career. So I'm doing what I can to get that word out, and I need your help. AmeriCorps alums, need your help. How can I help this? Let me know. What do you think about that?
Oh, you know what? I do a lot of interviewing here in the city of LA, and over the years, just with the different nonprofits that I've actually served at, and every time I see AmeriCorps alum, when I see the organizations that they've been a part of, whether it's City Year or Public Allies, I mean, so many that we have here in Los Angeles, it brings a smile to my face, and it takes the conversation to a whole other level, because there's commonality there, and I know that when I'm talking to these young people and older people as well, we were talking about impact, we're talking about the people that we met, the different stories, and I know, that before a person who understands community, who has those social skills that are just so important in the public sector, so I love it, and and I share this with other people as well.
That's right. Robert, there's 775,000 AmeriCorps alums across the country. Amazing. Who served over 1 billion hours of service. So it's really a movement that is so positive. We put 775,000 people who are well trained and know how to coordinate activities and be leaders. How do you react to the benefit of as a career path and to employers?
For me?
Yes, for you. What do you see the benefit if you were hiring someone? Why would you want to hire an AmeriCorps alum?
Well, I think you hit it on the head with I think AmeriCorps members in general, if you're able to finish a term of service, or much like the military, it gives you a baseline that they can hack it in on some level. So I think that's huge, and I would love to see AmeriCorps kind of raise its stature in terms of the public consciousness as that people on the street hear AmeriCorps and they're like, oh, that man or lady has some chops.
Very good. Melissa, you're at the state commission.
Yes.
What do you think from working throughout the state of Iowa? What benefits have you seen?
I think just the biggest benefits, again, have been that access into either exploring a new career or maybe working within the career field that you already want to go into. So having that access, that opportunity. And then one thing that we've really been doing with our local Des Moines AmeriCorps alum chapter, and I know they're doing this at the national level as well, is educating members or alums on what how to turn their service into kind of job speak. So translating what they did, and AmeriCorps is important. It's not just nice, it's something that's important. And I think helping current members learn how to say, it wasn't just volunteering, it was you did so much more than just volunteer, as we hear people say sometimes. So really working not only with employers, but we're also trying to work with current members and alums to help them translate what they have done into a way that employers understand and will see the benefit of hiring an AmeriCorps member, which we hope will continue to trickle down and help, again, more employers know what AmeriCorps is and that members were held to a high caliber and accomplished some pretty amazing feats throughout their term of service.
So we're starting to run out of time. I'm going to, and we just lost Robert. So thanks, Robert. You may jump back in. But one last question I'll just put to all of you. Is there are a lot of ways that people can give back right now, and I think it's sort of, it goes without saying that just one way that people are serving. People are serving in the military, people are serving in the Peace Corps, people are serving in a whole host of ways in their communities, through their churches, through their schools. But there's something I think unique about AmeriCorps that makes it special. And that's for a person who's thinking about becoming an AmeriCorps, whether that's a organization that's looking about hiring AmeriCorps, or maybe people in this city who are thinking about fits. I'd love to hear from each of you what you think makes AmeriCorps unique. What's special about this organization and your experience that you think differentiates it from other types of service in this country? Yeah.
I think there's so many answers to that question. I think it's so varied by programs. I think the networking opportunities that we've talked about, quite a bit are one. I think even just you mentioned the idea of alums and what makes it unique. And I think about, we had our initial response to still very involved in Joplin's recovery through our Joplin Recovery Project and through coordinating other AmeriCorps programs. But then I think we took that even a step farther, for example, and we started a program called Joining Hands in the Heartland. And it goes back to that idea of networking, and it's giving people the ability to fundraise and to continue to give back to Joplin. And so I think that just kind of reflects one thing that AmeriCorps does, and it's never just about one particular incident or one particular child or one particular community. It's a continuation, and it's a continued community, and the alums do the same thing, and it's service always has that way to pay it forward even one step further. And I think AmeriCorps really looks at how we can always take things one step further and how we can keep serving even when, the media is off of us. And I think that's one thing that we don't need media to function as an organization, and that's one of the basis of half the questions we got today, but that's not why we do what we do, and we do what we do because of the member development side of it, and because it is the right thing to do for these communities and these individuals.
Great.
I think what was very attractive for me as a community organizer was the collective nature of AmeriCorps, that we're here to work together. We're a team, here's the issue. This is a way that we're going to address it. And it's not just going to be us in a vacuum, but it's us working in partnership with the nonprofit sector, with local government, with other neighborhood leaders. I mean, that's one thing that I love about AmeriCorps, is that it's about the entire community. It's not just us in isolation or having that lone wolf mentality, but the fact that together, we can have an impact, on these issues. That to me is gold, that what makes AmeriCorps very, very special.
And I think to kind of echo what Rafael was just saying, I think for me AmeriCorps has been a stepping stone for me. I was a undergraduate student who didn't quite know what my next path was going to be and wasn't sure that I had the same passions that I had when I started out. College student. So for me, it became a stepping stone to something, to something different and something new and something I wasn't sure was going to be my path. But it's just knowing that you're part of something that's bigger than you. It is that community. It's that opportunity to be in maybe a place you didn't think you were going to be in, to become a person you weren't quite sure you were going to be able to become. So just knowing that you're part of something that can seem so small but is actually so much bigger than your one component. AmeriCorps is bigger than what I'm doing in Iowa, what Quinn's doing in Missouri. It's a collective impact that we're working toward, and I think once you see that, it's something special, and I think it's unique.
Well, so Robert, I know you dropped out just during the question there, but
yeah.
we'll end it with you here. Do you have any final words about your experience with AmeriCorps, or what you think makes the organization special?
Yeah, I mean, I caught that, so I'll take the a little side answer on why I think it's unique in terms of service programs. Frankly, a guy like me, it was the low barrier to entry is really important for me. I probably didn't look that good on paper for like an officer candidate school or Teach for America or a Peace Corps, which they're long, drawn out application processes. And we need to have something for people who may not be the best planners or may not look the best on paper, but have an option to really contribute. And so I count myself in that category. I was in AmeriCorps probably 4 or 5 weeks after I decided to join, and I think that's really important to have.
Yeah,
that's great.
So Wendy, we'll end with you. Do you have any final words of wisdom based on this conversation, your experience here today?
Well, thanks everybody, and I really thank you, Macon, for inviting me to the White House to talk about AmeriCorps alums and the impact that AmeriCorps is making all over the country. Thank all my Hangout friends, and I want to do a big shout out to AmeriCorps alums If you're an alum out there and you haven't joined AmeriCorps alums, go to AmeriCorpsAlums.org. Ben Duda's doing an awesome job as your leader. We're so excited to have him leading the AmeriCorps alum program. He's here at the White House, another 150 AmeriCorps alums. We thank all the 775,000 AmeriCorps alums all over the country. You all are awesome. You rock. We're here to lift you up, and hopefully we're going to be adding millions of AmeriCorps members throughout the next 10 years to come. So go AmeriCorps.
All right. Well, thanks, Wendy. Thanks, everyone, for joining, and thank you for giving me an excuse not to wear a suit today at work. I really appreciate that. I should also point out to everyone watching, you can learn a lot more about AmeriCorps at AmeriCorps.gov. They're on Twitter at AmeriCorps. And, of course, the video of this whole event, for those of you that dropped in a little bit through it, will be posted to whitehouse.gov and on our YouTube channel and so forth. So we really appreciate you taking the time to join us today, both those of you in the Hangout and those of you just on the web. And I hope you have a wonderful Friday and a great weekend.